name is Julian, and you're with Kabai here in Singapore. Now, many of us are working from home, and because I remembered to pay my internet bill, I can talk to Ritu Chandy, the regional CEO of BMW Financial Services for Asia Pacific. Hi, Ritu.
Hi, Julian.
Now, Access by BMW is a service that's making BMWs available to healthcare workers here in Singapore for as little as $50 a day, I should say, Singapore dollars. Now, Ritu, you're going to tell us a bit more about that. But first, could you explain what Access by BMW actually is? And can you explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old?
All right, that's a challenge, and I accept it. Firstly, I hope everyone listening to this show is well and healthy and safe. What is Access? It is the easiest, simplest, quickest way to get behind the wheel of a BMW. Okay. So no long-term commitments. You can drive a new BMW whenever you want, and you can basically do that sitting at home on your iPad. And 6-year-olds these days know what iPads are, so I don't have to describe that.
Okay.
Someone once described it, and I think it might even be you, Julian, as the Netflix of car ownership.
Right.
So it really does give you the ability in a digital way to order a BMW with no long-term fees, hidden fees, commitments, and have the car delivered to your doorstep. And, again, drive the car for as little as a week, as long as 3 months, and then return the car with no commitments.
Okay, I like that. Netflix, but with BMWs. Well, I don't know if it was me, but whoever coined that is a genius. Now, cheaper access by BMW for healthcare workers. Can you tell me what the story is there?
Sure. We're all staying home, staying safe in what are unprecedented times. I think unprecedented times for all of us, both professionally and personally. And it is the healthcare workers of Singapore, the frontline workers who are supporting all of us to stay safe by really putting up this fight against an unknown enemy, right? The unknown virus. So it is really our way to say thank you, a very small gesture to say thank you, because we're not able to go out there and fight shoulder to shoulder with them. And it is about providing safe mobility, a safe mobility option to the healthcare workers at a very affordable price. So as little, as you said, as $50 a day, 50 Singapore dollars, you can get behind the wheel of a 1 Series. And again, it's about giving you access, personalized access to that car to keep you safe, to get you to work where you need to be, to keep the rest of Singapore safe. So that's really our little contribution.
Right, and this is something you announced yesterday, and I was kind of doing the sums in my head, and $50 a day is kind of just, for some people, it's a couple of cab rides, maybe going once to work and coming back. So is that really the idea, to make it as affordable as a cab ride?
In this case, it really, like I said, it is a very, very unique gesture for the healthcare workers. That doesn't apply to, for instance, yourself, Julian, if you were to apply for Access.
Well,
there is a promotion.
One more reason to have studied harder and gone to medical school. But yeah, I'm sorry, you were going to say?
There is a promotional offer for all our other customers, all our potential customers as well. But this is really a gesture for the healthcare workers. So we've gone together with our partners, Sime Darby Services, and really provided a very compelling offer, again, as our gesture to say thank you.
Okay. Actually, well, first of all, it's good of you, and I think it's probably now more important than ever that some of these healthcare professionals have access to private transportation, and they must work long hours on their feet all day. So it must be nice to end the day, driving home in your own BMW. I've heard also that you and some of your colleagues have delivered food and made food runs to doctors and other healthcare workers, in hospitals around the island. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, that was actually another gesture that we started within BMW. So all areas in BMW signed up for a collaboration with the Dandy Collection. And we've actually taken food, really lovely packaged meals to different hospitals, again, as a gesture to say thank you to the workers, the healthcare community. So it's not just meant for doctors. It's basically yesterday we delivered something between 50 to 100 meals going across the hospitals in Singapore, again, in order to say thank you and appreciate the effort that the healthcare service providers are putting in these challenging times.
So good on you. I think it's good of you to help in those ways as well. Now, just getting back to Access by BMW, this is a service that I think you launched around about 10 months ago here, which kind of makes you sort of pioneers of mobility on demand, or mobility as a service in Singapore. Okay, I know we live in strange times now, but so far, has it kind of played out the way that you anticipated?
We've learned every day, every single day of this journey. So you're spot on. We launched it last year in July. And I think you might recall one of our first discussions. We started off with a weekly subscription and a 3-month subscription. 3 months later into the journey, we learned that actually customers were giving us feedback. They wanted a 1-month option. So we adapted. So we then came up with a 1-month option. We took away some of the complexity. We also took feedback in terms of the user experience, what they enjoyed, what they didn't. And we've, again, like I said, adapted along the journey.
Okay, well, hang on a second. Just tell me about some of the things that you learned about what they enjoyed and what they didn't enjoy. I'm kind of curious to see what you've learned about the way Singaporeans want their mobility.
So, for instance, let's talk about the users, the customers. We had a lot of customers who wanted more stability. They wanted to use that car for a month, and they said having a weekly option, having to go in and renew it, wasn't something they wanted to do. And that's why we came up with a monthly option. Some of the customers wanted the features of the car to be more prominent and actually understand what a car provided in terms of, heads-up display or lane departure sensors. So they wanted a more prominent understanding or prominent feature on the app to really see what were they getting access to in terms of the car. We also got feedback in terms of the drop-off and delivery experience, positive generally, actually. Some feedback that could have been about timing. Well, I ordered it this time and I wanted more flexibility in terms of delivery options. And we did not get any negative feedback on the cleanliness of the cars, which is fantastic, and the condition that they received the cars in. And I must say, the conditions we got the cars back in was also, pristine, which would be expected in Singapore. So learned along the journey, and to your point earlier, would I rate it a success? I think what I'd say is, Julian, it definitely has been something that's growing in popularity. It's still not very well understood, but it is definitely a form of mobility that is gaining traction. So just for context, we have about 429 signed up registered users. Now, that doesn't mean all 429 are in cars. In terms of bookings, we're not counting the number of customers, because some customers are repeat customers. They book for a week, they're off for the next 3 months, and they come back and book for another week. We've had customers book for a month and basically done nothing and come back for a week. So we've actually counted the number of months, and we've had about 65 months paid subscription and 65 months and 5 weeks of paid subscription. So is it a success? I think it's been a great learning. We've adapted the platform as we've learned, and for us, it is definitely a form of mobility which is going to gain additional traction in times like today. And that's my opinion.
Okay. Well, you mentioned times like today, and I'm just wondering if you see anything about this whole experience that we're all going through together, kind of giving you the chance to learn something that will maybe alter your playbook a little bit for Access.
So, when we think about mobility and cars as such, looking to China, we've actually seen that individual mobility has become more prominent in China now, resurfacing from lockdown phase. So public transport usage has reduced and shared mobility usage has reduced. These are statistics that are out there. And you can see that. I mean, I'm talking about reduction public transport usage from 50% in some states to 20% in others. So it's a varied demographic of usage. What does that mean for us? I think tools like Access will become more important, especially in a city like Singapore or country like Singapore, where individual ownership of cars is still prohibitively expensive. People would still potentially want to have access to individualized mobility for shorter periods of time. And to be able to do so with a click of a few buttons on your iPad or laptop while you're sitting at home and have it delivered, again, it enables us to transact that business digitally, which is a trend that we're seeing very much around actually the world. And also in a very socially distant manner, right? The drop-off can be arranged, the sanitization of the car is done for you and it's given to you. So we've taken some actions to, of course, adapt our playbook. The digital tools that we started Access with, so Access was always available on a digital platform. If anything, that was for us, the only way to launch Access, and that's become more times of the times of today. That is how business is going to be transacted now, as opposed to something that would have been nice to have. It's more a must-have.
Right. Okay. And I actually specifically want to ask you, when can we see something like a 2-day or 3-day pass for a BMW? Because I think maybe for a weekend I might like to have a go in one of your fine cars and just enjoy myself, socially distant way, but still getting out there and having a bit of fun. I might not want to commit for a week or even a month, but is that something you see happening?
So the weekend request has come up. It has. We haven't been asked for sort of a 1-day, and this is an interesting learning from the US as well. Fascinatingly enough, while we launched the US Access program with a day-to-day access or day-to-day subscription, customers actually didn't like changing their cars every day. They thought it was a frustrating experience. But again, that's the learning from the US. So we didn't go for the daily subscription in Singapore, but we've been requested, again, listening to customer feedback, for a weekend subscription. So we are considering that alternative. We just have to make sure that the logistics work with our partner, and whether we can make that available will be something that we'll look at again.
Okay, well, I'll be the first one to sign up for that when it happens.
Okay. I'm going to keep that in mind.
That's on record. Now, just zooming out a little bit, I think this pandemic has the potential to kind of permanently alter the way some of us live our lives. And if you kind of look at the winners and losers in terms of the fallout from all this, one of the losers that often comes up is the car industry. And the winners are kind of always, sort of talked about in tech industry terms. But this part of your business is somewhere in the middle. It's about cars, but it's also a tech solution to mobility. So how do you see it playing out for your industry, and where does something like Access fit in with the kind of different way we're all going to live our lives once this is all over?
That's a good question. I think it was actually a quote by Satya Nadella, right? Digital disruption that's been experienced in the last 2 months would have normally taken 2 years in normal times. And I think we're not immune to that. We as an industry have also seen that. So if we look at China or Korea, customers' expectations to deal with us as an organization and the means to communicate with us, the means to transact with us, have changed. In China, we've seen almost over double of our customers interacting with us and going to digital car showrooms, making payments digitally, wanting to actually sign up for a car offering in a digital manner and have deliveries done. Korea, same sort of thing. And these were, again, trends that were perceived to be occurring. We were preparing for this for the future, but what the current circumstance and COVID-19 has done is just accelerated the adoption of those trends. And that's what we've seen. So digital disruption in terms of customer expectations, being able to shop for a car online, being able to have questions answered online. So we have a digital salesman kit. Our dealers and dealer partners are actually communicating with customers on Zoom and taking them through the features of cars. And of course, being able to sign up for your loan online. We've launched similar platforms in Malaysia. We're about to launch something in Australia, in all our markets across the region. So it's absolutely fascinating that mobility, which again is a need, a primary need, and we just talked about the fact that individual mobility might gain more traction, the how people will access that mobility, whether it's going to be physical interaction at a showroom versus digital interaction via technology, has changed.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Julian. Much appreciated. Stay safe.
We've been talking to Ritu Chandy, Regional CEO of BMW Financial Services, Asia Pacific region, about Access by BMW. If you want to find out more about that or just read more great stories about the car industry in Singapore, head on over to carbuyer.com.sg and we'll be seeing you.